Okay, so this time we're going to do a caliber changeover with the Hornady Lock and Load AP Progressive Press, including the switch of the priming components. So what we'll do first is take off the powder measure. We'll take off the sizer, the expander, the seater, and taper crimp die. So our 45 ACP dies are off now, and we're going to switch over to 357 Magnum. So first we'll take the sizer and then the expander. We'll leave a spot for the powder measure, and then we'll put on the seater die. So dies are in place, and I've got a setup here where I just have 45 ACP as the short die, and then I have spacers that will automatically reposition the powder measure to the correct height. So let's take our 357 spacer, put that on, and put our lock and load bushing on. This way we don't have to take the time to make precise height adjustments so that the powder measure articulates to the right distance each time. Okay, so our die switchover is complete now. Now let's take a look at the shell plate. So we're going to just take a wrench here and undo the bolt, pass-through bolt, and we'll just take that bolt off and then lift off the 45 ACP shell plate. And now we're going to go to number 6 for 357 Magnum. Take the case retention spring off. Okay, so we're going to roll this around, put in the pass-through bolt. Okay, now we're going to just snug the bolt down. Okay, now we're going to put the case retention spring on. Okay, so we're just going to pass that through a couple times. Okay, so if we were doing a same primer size changeover, we'd be done. Now we're going to take a look at changing out the primer components. Okay, so the first step is we're going to take off the case slider spring, and then we're going to remove the primer tube assembly. Just take an Allen key here, loosen that a little bit, and then when this screw is out, we're just going to lift the slider and the primer tube assembly at the same time, dump the extra primers out. Okay, take the tube off. Now we're going to put the small primer slider on, and then we're going to put the tube back down. Now we don't necessarily need to take this tube assembly off, but I do anyway so that I can dump the primers out. I only had a couple that time, so it wasn't a big deal. Okay, so the next step, now that we've got our slider on, is to put the slider spring back on. So we're just going to grab the edge of that with our pliers here, pop that baby down. Okay, so now we've got the top of the priming setup done. Okay, so now we're going to take the punch, the large primer punch that we had for 45 ACP, and remove that. Okay, so there's our large punch assembly, and we're going to put that on the rack. Take the small one, put that in. Okay, so we're just going to tighten that. Give it a little snug. Okay, And then the last step is to take the primer tube and to put this stepped down end in. Make sure it goes all the way down, and then put in our primer tube guide. So it should look like that when you're done. Now we can just fill up the primer tube with primers and we would be ready to load.